I seem to be talking about Mario a lot lately, with my last countdown being about Super Mario Galaxy, and the countdown before having Mario entries on both ends of the list. So why not continue that trend with this next video? One aspect of the Mario series that I feel is greatly underappreciated is the great, and I mean great, assortment of villains. So inspired by Rabbid Luigi's top 10 Legend of Zelda villains, I will be making my top 10 Mario villains. Just a few things to get out of the way first. One, only games I've played, obviously. Two, just because you don't play as Mario doesn't mean the villain is disqualified, so villains from the Luigi's Mansion and Wario series will be included. That's not to say I'll include villains from the Smash Bros. Series like Master Hand, because they don't count because that's not a Mario game. And second, I will be touching upon pretty much everything the villain does, so spoilers will be present. But anyway, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Right next to Mario Party 8 and Super Paper Mario, Mario and Luigi Partners in Time is, at least to me, one of the most underrated Mario games out there. So why not kick off this list with its main antagonist, Princess Shroob. She's the younger sister of the two shroob princesses, the elder being sealed away in the Colbat Star. So she's left in control of the shroob army, and let me tell you, she does a pretty good job of maintaining control. The shroobs got pretty far with her in charge, and that's saying something considering their original leader has been sealed away. She serves sort of as a doppelganger for Peach, partly in part to the fact that she knows what she's doing. She even takes advantage of this by disguising herself as Peach to sneak herself into the present to try to take over the Mushroom Kingdom in the present. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, really, because if you think about it, if the Shroobs have taken over the Mushroom Kingdom in the past, wouldn't they still be in control in the present? Ah well, Nintendo logic. In battle, she uses technology to her advantage, but with a floating chair that can use a shield, as well as two laser cannons attached to it, and a pair of spider legs that she'll use in an attempt to crush you. When she's been knocked out of her chair, she can use magic to her advantage. However, it's never quite explained how she or her sister got access to magic. I kinda would've liked it more if they had explained that at some point. Even despite all this, I think Princess Shroob was still a pretty good villain. When it comes to gaming, unlike certain character types, wicked witches really aren't all that common. Cacletta is one of the very few, though. In Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, she starts off by stealing Princess Peach's voice. Kind of odd. However, the reason she did this was because Princess Peach's voice would awaken the Beanstar, which grants all desires, which she'd probably use to take over the world or something like that. In battle, she uses many magic-based attacks, including shooting black holes at you, making lightning hit you, or cloning herself. Later in the game, she even possesses Bowser, and believe me, that is a deadly combination. And the final boss fight with her is so dang hard, it's arguably the hardest required boss in the Mario franchise. To this day, I still haven't beaten this boss, even though that's probably because I'm really underleveled. Coming up next on the list is the leader of the X-Nauts, Lord Crump. Okay, I kind of exaggerated there a bit, because technically Grodus is the leader of the X-Nauts, but he's a complete jerk and not entertaining personality-wise whatsoever, so let's just go with Lord Crump. He's essentially your rival throughout Super Paper Mario. You fight him a total of 3 times, and they're all very enjoyable fights. His personality is, well, he's kind of, not smart, to be honest, but he still is pretty funny. The majority of his fights is when he's inside his mech, the Magnus von Grapple, which I'm impressed that this guy was able to build. Turns out he's smarter than he seems like he is, I guess. The other fight with him is aboard his pirate ship, where not only he can attack you, but so do his X-Not troops. One last thing I'd like to mention. Lord Crump is the only Mario villain to ever break the fourth wall. Remember when Super Paper Mario scored my fourth darkest game I've ever played? Well, how did it get an E rating? Those of you who were questioning my judgment, here's the perfect example of what I was talking about. Count Bleck, the main antagonist of Super Paper Mario, is the perfect example of a tragic villain. Admittedly, towards the beginning of the game, Bleck seems like a completely cliché villain who just wants to destroy the world for no good reason. But once you find out his backstory, it turns out that's completely false. His backstory is that he once was just, a regular guy, and he was with his girlfriend, it was all fine, but then apparently she was sent away for some reason, and it was apparent that she died. Having the whole existence of everything lose meaning to him, he decides to try to end all worlds. Okay, dude, I get you lost your girlfriend, but don't you think that might be a bit extreme? As the game progresses, however, once he notices that his girlfriend actually lives on in the form of your in-game partner, Tippy, he starts to have second thoughts, however, constantly reconvinces himself that the process is way too far along to the point where even he can't stop it. However, in the end, Count Bleck and Tippy sacrifice both their lives in order to stop the universe from being destroyed. Truly a sad story. Remind me again how this got an E rating? Also, Bleck has a fair share of minions helping him out throughout his entire quest for ultimate world destruction, and all of them are really likable characters in their own right. They all have their own personalities, backstories, and many fights throughout the game. However, it would take forever if I were to go into all of that. In short, Bleck's a great villain. His tragic backstory and wide variety of minions truly make him one of the high points of Super Paper Mario. It's probably one of the laws of gaming by now. If you're going to make a list about the best Mario villains, it's impossible to not put Bowser on it. Mainly because he is the main antagonist of the Mario series. In almost every game, Bowser's goal has been the same: kidnap Princess Peach. He has been doing this since day one, aka Super Mario Bros., and still does it to this day. And he accomplishes his goal in every game. He kidnaps Princess Peach. However, keeping her caught he is terrible with, as no matter what, Mario will defeat him. He does put up quite a good fight, though. He's appeared in almost every Mario sub-series aside from the ones that it wouldn't be incredibly out of place, such as Dr. Mario and Mario vs. Donkey Kong. However, is he as good as people say he is? I'm not so sure. I'm not saying Bowser's a bad villain or anything, but really the only game I found him all that intimidating in was Super Mario Galaxy, and not Super Mario Galaxy 2. I swear, making him a giant in that game, that was one about as cliche as it can get. I personally prefer him in the RPGs where he's not really all that scary, but more so, just a really funny character. And my personal favorite game for Bowser is Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, where he's essentially the good guy. I'm not sure if that's the mark of a great character or the fact that Bowser just stinks at his job. Hey Bowser, I've got a suggestion for you. Try to do something other than kidnapping Peach. You'll probably be more successful. Yes, I said it. I put a villain from Wario Master of Disguise over Bowser. But anyway, I really should explain why I like Count Canolli a lot. Ever since Wario showed up on his show and stole his wand, Canolli has been trying to get his wand back from Wario ever since. He's a huge contrast to Wario with how much class he has and how much class Wario doesn't have. So you can imagine how mad he gets when Wario steals his wand and calls himself the Purple Wind. He fights you in mechs that he has access to, and these fights are pretty fun. However, for the first half of the game, Canolli completely falls behind Wario and can't do anything to get at him. Until, of course, he makes a deal with the villain who is later on this list, which then he's always one step ahead of Wario as opposed to the other way around. However, my favorite thing about Canolli is in the final chapter, when he just gives up and admits to Wario that he's done trying to trap him and has realized that Wario is his Wand Goodstyle's true master and tells him to go on and complete his adventure. Kinda gets you thinking, doesn't it? And that's really my favorite thing about Canolli, although I do like the other aspects of him as well. Now for the most frightening villain on this list, King Boo. King Boo is the leader of the Boos, obviously, and the main antagonist of Luigi's Mansion. And he causes so much trouble for Luigi and Egad that he just causes so much trouble for Luigi and Egad, I don't know what to say. From destroying the Dark Moon that makes all the ghosts in Evershade Valley friendly, to turning Mario into a painting twice. While King Boo doesn't personally scare me, just try to watch the scene right before the final battle in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon and tell me it doesn't have good creepy atmosphere. Speaking of the fights with him, they're all pretty fun and difficult. However, one thing he has got to stop doing is using spike balls to attack Luigi. No matter what, that always seems to be his downfall. The Boos actually sort of help King Boo. The more that are active, the stronger he is. So you obviously want to capture as much of them as possible. Also, there's an interesting fan theory going around. In the original Luigi's Mansion, Madame Clairvoyant makes it seem like Bowser had been completely killed by Mario long ago. And King Boo, in the original again, uses Bowser to fight Luigi. Also, the reason that King Boo traps Mario in paintings is revenge for all the trouble Mario caused him in the past. Could it be that King Boo is really just the ghost of Bowser? Nintendo hasn't confirmed this in any way, and it wasn't hinted at in the slightest in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, even though it does clearly take place after the original, but that would still be pretty interesting if the theory was true. Remember when I mentioned that Canolli was being helped by a villain who would show up later on this list? Yep, that villain is in fact Carpaccio. While he doesn't appear all that much through Wario Master of Disguise, he helps Canolli out through most of the game, and he really shines in his few appearances that he is there. He's the head of Seagull Securities, which their motto there is, "We watch your back. That way it's easier to pick your pocket." He's essentially a huge billionaire, and he has access to a bunch of powers at his disposal that I'm assuming that his money bought him, although I'm not quite sure how money can buy superpowers. He always keeps a calm attitude towards himself, unlike Canolli. And really the only time he gets mad is when Wario constantly forgets his name. And the fights with him are pretty good. The race with him, despite some people hating it, actually remains as one of my favorite boss fights in video games, as you know if you saw top 11 Wario Master of Disguise bosses. Admittedly, out of all the villains on this list, Carpaccio is probably the hardest for me to explain why I like him so much. I just do. Up next on this list is Dimentio. While towards the beginning of this video I made it sound like Bleck was my favorite villain in Super Paper Mario, nope, it's Dimentio. Dimentio is one of Count Bleck's servants. However, unlike the others, he's not really loyal to Bleck at all. He sure is sneaky, from eavesdropping on Count Bleck's private conversations to convincing the minions to do something they were specifically told not to. Throughout the game, Dimentio actually he subtly helps you throughout the game, not really giving it away. Until, of course, the fight with him in Castle Bleck, where he explains it and actually asks you if you want to help him take down Count Bleck together. Now, I really think I should explain Dimentio's motives. Unlike Count Bleck, where he just wants to destroy all worlds and leave them all in limbo, Dimentio has a different idea. By using the Chaos Heart to his advantage, and once all the worlds are destroyed, to create perfect new ones, which are presumably the worlds crafted in his image. I don't know, that never actually happens in the game, so we don't know quite what they'd look like. Now I think I should talk about the fights with him. He shoots projectiles at you, flies around the room, teleports, clones himself. You know, typical magical attack stuff. Granted, the fights with him, aside from the final battle, aren't really all that tough. But if you think about it, that makes perfect sense. He doesn't want to kill you. If it did, that would completely interfere with his plan. After all, he needs you to gather up all the pure hearts and use them to defeat Bleck, so he can claim the Chaos Heart all to himself. And when it's all said and done for the final battle, most of his plans already worked. He read the Dark Prognosticus to know what he must do, the heroes already took down Bleck, and he's played both sides, both Count Bleck and Mario, for fools. And then he possesses Luigi using the Floro Sprouts he borrowed from King Crocus, and uses, because the Dark Prognosticus said that Luigi would be the perfect vessel for the Chaos Heart. Dimentio, overall, was just a great villain. He had a likable personality, he planned his steps carefully, played both sides for fools, and pretty much any scene in Super Paper Mario that has Dimentio in it is bound to be a pretty good one. But think about this. Dimentio is only number 2. That just begs the question, what could beat him? Why did I even bother asking that question? You already know what it is. Whenever you ask an experienced Mario player what their favorite villain in the series is, you're bound to get 3 answers. You're either going to get Bowser, Dimentio, or number 1 on this list. That's it. You heard me right. My favorite Mario villain is none other than Fawful. Honestly, how can you not like Fawful? He started off in Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga as a servant of Cacletta, and let me tell you, he did that job pretty well. Sure, Cacletta may have possessed Bowser. However, if it weren't for Fawful, she wouldn't have even been able to do that, and instead she would have just died on the floor of Woohoo University. And even then, he gets no recognition for it, which makes him start to want to betray Cacletta. However, he doesn't get the chance. Luigi knocks him out of the window of Bowser's castle, and he explodes and dies. Or so everyone thought. However, he makes a comeback in Bowser's Inside Story in a big way. By that, I mean now he's the main villain. When it came to his plan, he thought everything through. What if Mario and Luigi try to stop him? Simple. Tricks Bowser into eating a vacuum shroom that causes him to inhale everything, including the Mario Brothers. He's not physically strong? Simple. Get a minion who is, so to take on Bowser's brute force. His main goal was to absorb the power of the Dark Star, to make him completely unstoppable in his goal to take over the Mushroom Kingdom. Even though he already took it over, I guess just so no resistances build up at all. He also did a bunch of stuff along the way just for the heck of it, such as brainwashing all of Bowser's minions to watch his show, and using the power of the Dark Star to turn Peach's castle into a giant fighting robot to fight Bowser. And not to mention, of course, trolling Bowser throughout the entire game. Throughout all of his endeavors until, of course, he gets the Dark Star, he relies in combat mostly on machinery, which I think is very well illustrated in the last fight with him in Superstar Saga. Now for his appearance. His swirly glasses make him highlight his insanity, and his grin makes him seem incredibly happy no matter what he's doing, even if he's wincing in pain. But I know I've been ignoring the most obvious thing for a while, but the most famous thing about Fawful, his quotes. I'm just gonna list off a couple right now. I have fury. You are a nuisance barge, barging in at a critical time for us. You inhaled like a hungry syrup pig at a pancake buffet. You have gotten in Fawful's way at all of the turns, just like the red and green mustaches that I hate. I think I've made it pretty clear that I like Fawful. After all, he wouldn't be in my username if I didn't. Also, I think I'll just leave you on one last note. Many people think Fawful dies at the end of Bowser's Inside Story because of the explosion, but I see things otherwise. After all, he did explode getting knocked out of a castle in the sky and exploding. I think the darkness just surrounding him exploded off of him and he went back to normal. Then he escaped through the pipe yard in Bowser's body so he could be the villain in the Mario and Luigi Dream Team. At least I hope that's what happened, but yeah, that seems pretty likely to me. I am Cardboard Box Productions, and Nintendo, put Fawful in Mario and Luigi Dream Team.